Hello everyone. Have you ever wanted to rename multiple files on the Mac? Maybe you want to change what the name, or you want to add a sequential number before or after the name. How can you do that? Well, actually, it's pretty simple. We do this right from within the Finder on the Mac. Let's see how we can do this. Let's go over to my Mac. So I'm looking at my Mac here, and I have a number of different screenshots that I took. When you take a screenshot, it applies a default name, including screenshot, along with the date and time. Now that's kind of nice. It tells me what it is and when it was taken. But now I would like to use these for, let's say, a tutorial. Maybe they are screenshots for a Mac tutorial. So instead of saying screenshot here, I'd like them to say Mac. I would also like to add a sequential number. How can I do that? Well, instead of going in here and renaming each one, and you can do it that way, but there's a lot easier way to do it. All we have to do is just select the files. So I'm going to select all of these. Just drag and drop to select them. And now what I do is I hold down the Control key. I get to my contextual menu. When I hold down my Control key, I have a number of different options when I click my trackpad. One of them being rename. What this will allow me to do is not only rename one file, but it will allow me to rename all of the files that I have selected. Let's go ahead and select this and see how this works. Select it, and now we have my rename Finder items. Now, before I go and rename them, remember what I would like to do is I would like to replace the text. How can I do that? Well, if we look here, you're going to see I have a number of options. By default, it goes over to replace text. So what I'm able to do is find a specific text. In this case here, it'll be screenshot, and I can replace it with something else. So let's do that first. I type in here screenshot, and I want to replace it with Mac. So now I just type in here Mac. And now we get to see what it's going to look like. It's going to be Mac with the date that that screenshot was taken. From here, all I have to do is just click on rename. And now we can see that all of those files have been renamed. That's how easy it is. I could rename it back to screenshot. Again, they're all selected, so I just get to my contextual menu, hold down the Control key and click. And then we go over to rename. And from here, I can type in Mac and replace it with screenshot. But let's take this a step further. Maybe what I want to do is put them in a sequential order. I don't need the date and time with them anymore. I just want to have them in sequential order. So now what I do is I go over here to replace text, and you're going to see that I can add text. So from here I select it, and I want to add text after the name. So I can go and add text. Maybe this is for a tutorial, so I could say tutorial, and it'll add tutorial to every name. But also what we're able to do is format this. When I format it, what I'm able to do is change the name and index them. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can put that after the name, or I can put that before the name. So what I'm going to do is go with Mac tutorial, and then I want to have it with sequential numbers. So I just go Mac tutorial, and I put a space in there, and you're going to see it says Mac tutorial 1. Let's go and put a dash in there so then we know that we have the 1, 2, 3. Now what it's going to do is it's just going to start those numbers at 1 and rename those. So let's go ahead and do that. Rename, and now we can see we have Mac tutorial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can format this. Let's go ahead and go back over to rename. In addition to putting this after the name, we can also put it before the name. And I'm also able to set where I want my numbers to start. I can also go and put it with a name and counter. Let's go ahead and select this. And now you're going to see it's going to count up from 1. And I can also go with name and date. Now it's going to put the date in there. Now this is not the date that the screenshot was taken. This is the current time and date, so right now. So if you wanted to date them at the current time and date, this is where you can do that. So that is how we can batch rename files, and we can do this with folders as well, but basically it's how we can batch rename multiple files on the Mac. This is all done through the contextual menu. I am using Mac OS Sonoma, but this has been around on the Mac for years, and you can do it with older operating systems. It basically works the same way. They really haven't changed anything. Just go over to your contextual menu, Control-click on it after you select your files, and then from there select Rename, and you're going to be able to rename all of your selected files. So that's how you can batch rename files and folders on your Mac.